Are you tired of your parents telling you to clean up your room? Let's get down to business. Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm a CPA, and today we're going to talk about how to move out of your parents' house. And a quick note before we get started, if you want to receive 2 free stocks using a trading platform called Webull, click on the link in the description below. All you have to do is create an account and deposit $100. Now let's get on to the video. So earlier this month, I saw a pretty interesting chart from the Pew Research Center saying how 52% of people under 30 are living with their parents as of July. And obviously that number is a little bit inflated just because of the whole pandemic situation and things are crazy right now. But this trend has been going up for a little while now, and it got me thinking, what are the lasting implications of this? And if it applies to you, if you're in this statistic, how do you actually move out of your parents' house? So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about the why. Why is this happening? Why are so many people under 30 living with their parents? So the first thing that comes to mind is the rising cost of higher education. The average student debt per borrower is about $37,000, and this is just absolutely insane. And we actually talked about this in another video of mine. I'll actually put a link in, right over here. I think it's this corner. You can click on it, and we talk about how to graduate debt-free and some really good tips in there. So go check that out. But like I said, student debt is a huge problem, and I've seen tuition costs as high as $70,000 per year for undergraduate, which is absolutely insane. And there are probably higher amounts than that. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy how high these prices are getting and how much debt people under 30 are taking on for their undergraduate education. So the big problem is that these people under 30 are taking on huge amounts of debt that they just can't afford. And obviously this is causing a bigger problem on a macro level as far as housing goes, and is a big contributing factor in why people under 30 aren't moving out of their parents' house. They just can't afford it. The next issue is another cost issue, and that is the rising price of home values. So on average, the average home price increases about 5.4% per year. So every year it just becomes more and more and more unaffordable for younger people to buy a house. And this is also complemented by the fact that average wages have really not increased all that much, especially when comparing to the cost of living. So when people graduate college or high school or whatever, more often than not, they get beginner entry-level jobs, and they're not that well paying. And so the big issue is that there are a lot of people that just can't afford to buy a house. So really the most affordable option a lot of times is to go back home and live with your parents until you can eventually afford it. Unfortunately, this whole pandemic and recession is making things a lot harder because a lot of those beginner jobs are disappearing, and a lot of the small businesses, some of them are closing shop. A lot of big businesses are going bankrupt. So things are becoming more complicated as this year goes on. This year's been quite crazy, so no shock, but things are just getting more and more complicated. And so for me, I actually foresee that graph to continue to go up and up and up for a little while now, because I don't foresee things changing unless the economic situation gets a lot better, especially for millennials and Gen Z, people coming out of school. So it's going to be, I think, a pretty long ride up on that graph until the majority of millennials and Gen Z are able to afford housing. So what are the lasting implications of this? If people can't afford housing, what does that mean? So unfortunately, it's not very good. So it means that the divide between the upper and lower class will likely continue to grow, as we've seen. No real shock there, because that gap has been widening for a long time now. So really what this means is that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And what ends up happening is a lot of these younger people in lower class or just getting out of college won't be able to afford homes and will be stuck in this rent cycle. So really what it comes down to is more people will rent, which in my view is bad for personal prosperity and growing your wealth. Now we're going to talk about how to get out of that. And the thing is, it's actually pretty easy to get out of the situation. It does take a little bit of time, but with the right attitude, it's absolutely possible for anybody to do it. And so we're going to talk about averages here on the best way to get out of your parents' house, just to make things simple in this example. The basic steps to do this is to get your finances in order, have discipline, and Don't rent when you move out. Buy property. So the first thing really is to get your credit score in order. And I'm actually going to be creating a video about that fairly soon on how to manage your credit score and improve it. But that is the first thing you have to do. Get your credit score in order, because otherwise nobody's going to lend to you. Nobody's going to let you have money, let you buy a house if you don't have a good credit score and you aren't a reliable borrower. So make sure you get that in check. Make sure you have your credit score in at least the 650 range and up. And obviously, if you have a higher credit score than 650, that's way more preferable. I personally like to see credit scores at least at the 700 and up. So like I said before, we're gonna be using averages here in this example. So we're gonna assume that you make $40,000 a year and you're living with your parents and you are trying to get out. You're trying to move out of your parents' house, start your own life, and that is fantastic. So first thing is first, you're gonna wanna look for a house probably around the $100,000 to $150,000 range. And why this is because you want your total house payments to be about 30% of your monthly gross income. So if you make $40,000 a year, 30% of your monthly will be about $1,000 per month that you want to spend on your housing. And so this includes your mortgage payments, your tax payments, your insurance, any HOA. And obviously, things are going to vary on all those factors from where you live. And so that's why there's a bit of a range. But 30% of your gross monthly pay is really about the ballpark where you want to be for your house payment. So once you find your number, you really want to stick to it and commit to that as being your goal for buying a house just to move out. And so the next step is you want to save 10% of the value of the home. So let's just say you're looking into buying a $150,000 house. You want to save $15,000, and so you want to use 5% for closing costs and the down payment on the house, and the other 5% as savings for the house. So you want to keep that in the bank. And the reason for this is because lenders want to see that you have enough money saved up in case something goes wrong, like a global pandemic. They want to make sure that you're going to be able to pay off the house, and they're not at risk for you going into default. And so once you have your figure set, it's really a simple math problem. And if you're able to save $500 per month, you're able to move out of your parents' house in about 2.5 years, which is pretty quick. And so if you graduate college and you're making $40K a year, it's absolutely possible to save this amount. And if you're able to save even more power to you. It is absolutely doable to do it even quicker. And a bonus tip, if you really want to save even more money, if you buy a house, you can actually use one of the spare rooms as kind of like a rental unit and get rental income to help you pay down your house even faster and make it even more affordable. So that is also another option if you also want to consider having a roommate. If you don't want to have a roommate, that's fine. That is kind of the option that I chose. I didn't want any roommates, so it's definitely possible to kind of formulate this plan according to your needs and your budget and your kind of preferences. So really, it's up to you to decide what you want, but it is absolutely doable with determination and a little bit of perseverance in getting your finances in order. And so that's it. If you follow the steps in this last part of the video, you're absolutely sure to be able to move out of your parents' house and to get out of that statistic of the 52% that are still living with their parents. It's absolutely doable, and you can absolutely accomplish that goal. It is 100% doable. All you have to do is to maintain your financials, make a budget, make sure you are determined and dedicated to getting your goal, and maybe also realign your expectations on what you might be able to afford versus what you might not be able to afford. And really, when moving out, it's all about buying within your budget and not overextending yourself. And so I want to ask a couple questions to you. What are your thoughts on the rising trend of young adults continuing to live with their parents? And what are some additional tips that you might add to my list that might help someone in this position? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your answers. And if you've made it this far, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon. And if you find this video helpful or you think it might be helpful for someone you know, please go ahead and share it. It really means a lot to me. It would help my channel so much, and I'd really appreciate it. And also, don't forget to check the links out in the description below. There's a lot of good stuff down there, and I will see you in the next video.